Hello everyone and welcome to my new video of Python full stack course for beginners. So let's get started. So guys, in this video we'll be learning classes in object oriented approach. So guys, I've read the best docs, best courses and best videos on YouTube and have stacked up things in best order to teach you classes in the best way possible. So I'll be teaching classes in two videos. So let's start with the first one. So guys, in order to define the class, we can just simply say class, and here we have got the suggestion and we can simply define a class name. So let's make a class name as person, and we don't want this object right now, so we'll just remove it with the parentheses. It's not a function, so we don't need parentheses. Now after we have got a person, we can simply pass for now. So after we have passed, we can create an instance of our class. So let's create a person name, like let's say Jack, and I can just say person and double parentheses. So I've just created an instance of my person class. Now I can create as many instances as I want, like let's say Adam. They both will have the properties of this person class. Now right now they don't have any properties because we have just passed, but we can create some properties by saying Jack. Like let's say Jack must have some height, and we can set the height to, let's say, 175 centimeter or something like that. Similarly for Adam, we can set height as, let's say, 160. But if you see, it's not really in the class, but we just have created one property, but this property is just for this object or this class. Means it's not a universal property. Means if I define the height for just this object, then it won't be passed on to the next object. So right now let's try printing out the height of my Jack. So I'll say Jack dot height, and if I try running it, as you can see, it just printed out 175. So let's just comment all of them. We can just simply comment VS Code by saying Control K and C, and it just comments out. After we have got this, let's assign this property. So what I can say is I can simply define a method which is a default method in the class, also named as init. We can say double underscore, and I can say I, and have got the suggestion of init. I've just removed the unnecessary stuff. So init has a default parameter of self. We need not to pass any value for this, but you can name this variable anything. Now after this, let's say we want the weight of the person and the height of the person. Now we just pass two parameters. Now in order to assign them as a property of this class person, we need to say myself. You can understand this as this person as self. So like myself weight. So I can say self my weight. I want to set my weight as the weight the user provided. So whatever I'll type as the first argument will be set as my weight in here. I can assign my weight as weight, which is the user will pass in. So whatever the user will pass in, it will be just assigned to myself. Now I can similarly say self dot height, and I'll set it to my height. Now this is just instantiating my Jack and Adam with their respective properties of height and weight. So let's create them again and let's name them something like Adam in titleized form, and I can name a person. And when I put parentheses, you can see I've got the properties of weight and height. So I have to put just two parameters instead of three because self is a default parameter. So I can set the weight as something like 55 and height like, let's say, 175. Similarly, I can name another person, which is, let's say, Eve. She is also a person, and let's say weight be 55 only, let's say 50 instead, and height be 160. Now if I try printing the properties out, I can say my Adam dot, and you can see I've got the height and weight. So I can, let's say, print the weight. Similarly, I can print out Eve dot weight. Now let's try running it. As you can see, I've got the weight of 55 and 50. So that's the beauty of classes. So guys, this was just a simple class. Now let's create another class just to recapitulate what we did. I can say my class, and let's name our class this time a shape. And we this time also don't need these parentheses because we're not inheriting something. You'll know what I mean. Now let's create default init function. So I'll just define my init. I'll just remove the unnecessary stuff. Again, we'll do all these stuff, but we don't need them now. So in the shape we have a width, also we have a height. Now we can simply assign them to the properties of our shape. So I can say self dot width is equal to my width. Similarly, my self dot height is equal to my height. So it is just creating the properties of width and height and assigning them to the values of my width and height which the user will provide. Now we have just created our default function. Now let's create some other classes. So we can create another class, and let's name the class something like rectangle. Let's pass for now. And let's create another class and let's name it something like triangle. So guys, as we know, triangle and rectangle both are shapes. So does that mean that we can inherit something from shape? Yes, we can. So that's what inheritance is. So in order to inherit something, we just have to open and close parentheses and write the name of the class from which we are inheriting. So currently we are inheriting from the class shape, so I can just put in shape in here. We need not to have an init function in our rectangle and triangle classes because we are inheriting from the shape class, which has a default init function. Now if we create an init function in our triangle, then it won't show us the error, but it will just dominate the init function of our shape, and it will just follow the init function which we have created here. So let's create one function in both of our classes, and let's define something like, as you can see here, we have got a suggestion of class method. If I click it, it has a default self parameter and a parameter list. We don't need one because we are inheriting the width and height from the shape class. So let's name a function area of rect because we are finding the area of a rectangle. Now in order to find the area, we just need to say print out for us, we want self dot. As you can see, we have got the suggestion of height and width. Even though we don't have any such variables defined in here, it is just the init function from which we are inheriting. So I can just say my width into my self dot height. So this will just give us the area of a rectangle, right? Similarly, we can create a function for the area of my triangle. So I'll say area, and I'll just remove the parameter list because we are again inheriting from my default init function in this shape. And I'll again print out my self dot height into my self dot width, and we'll just divide it by 2. So guys, after this is done, let's create some instances of our rectangle and triangle classes. So let's name our rectangle instance as rect, and we'll just say as rectangle and parentheses. Now as you can see, we've got the suggestion of width and height because rectangle is inheriting from the shape class. So let's give the width something like 20 and height as 10. Similarly, I can create an instance of my triangle class and let's name it triangle, and let's pass the parameters of 10 and maybe let's say 40. And now if I say triangle dot, and as you can see, I can find the area of my triangle. If I just close the parentheses, similarly I can just say rectangle dot area dot rect. Now if I try running it out, you must be wondering why is this 200.0 and this is not like that. It is because when we divide, it just converts the integer into a float. I'm sorry if I didn't mention earlier about such things that if we divide, it just converts into float, but if you're just watching my videos, then you must have figured by yourself through practicing that it just does this. Now there's one more interesting function, and let me show you what it is. Now let's define a variable like let's say a, and let's say it is 80, which is an integer, right? Now we can print out is instance, which is a function in Python, and we can pass two parameters. So what we can do is we can pass the a, which is a variable name, and at the side I can pass my integer. So what this will do is it will check if my a is an integer, then it will print out true or false. It just basically returns. We are just printing so that we can visualize the result, and as you can see, it just prints out true. Now if I make it string and if I try running it again, it says false because it's not an integer anymore. Now I just converted this int into a string. Now let's try running it again, and it says true. Similarly, what we can do is we can also check if or object of this if the instance of a rectangle or triangle is of which class. So I can say my triangle, which is my instance of my triangle object, and I can just place triangle in here, which is my class name. Now if I try running it, it says true because my triangle is the instance of my triangle class. Similarly, I can just put rect here, which is my instance of my rectangle class, and I can put rectangle class here. Now if I try running it again, it says true. So guys, I've been moving in a very fast pace, so we'll do the rest of the stuff in the next video. So that's all for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. For any queries, just comment in the section below or contact me on my Discord server. Like the video if you liked it, dislike if you didn't, subscribe and share for more, and I'll see you guys in the next video.